Dune. Dune is finally here. It's been so long. I should have seen this movie last year. Let's talk about it. So Dune is directed by Denis Villeneuve, and it stars a whole bunch of people, including Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, Javier Bardem, David Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård. So many people are in this movie, and the plot of this movie, to kind of put it lightly, it takes place on this planet known as Arrakis, and there's this family, the House Atreides, which includes Oscar Isaac, Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, and they're basically engaged in a political war with the Harkonnens. It's kind of hard to talk about the plot of this without actually spoiling anything. Meanwhile, Timothée Chalamet is getting these visions, and that's all I can really say without spoiling this movie. So I was looking forward to this movie. It looked like it was going to be a very unique experience. It looked so interesting, and I actually went and saw this in IMAX. It just felt like a movie. It was like, no, I need to see that in IMAX. And I'm glad I did. And the trailers looked very good. They looked very interesting. They definitely didn't look like the David Lynch movie. This is a property that was adapted twice before. Once by David Lynch, and once as a miniseries, but they're saying, no, this is the definitive Dune adaptation. We're going to make it 2 movies. Hopefully it makes enough money to, get a second movie. So, and overall, I was still looking forward to it. It looked very epic in scale. It looked very different than most sci-fi movies out there, even though, Dune's been around for forever. And so I went to this movie. I saw it in IMAX again, and I was blown away by a lot of this movie. This movie is really good, but I do have some issues. I'll get into the stuff I did like, and don't worry, this is all spoiler free. I'm gonna try to do a spoiler take on Tuesday, along with No Time to Die and Halloween Kills. I keep saying that. Tuesday's just gonna be a spoiler day for Dune and those other 2 movies. So, what did I like about Dune? Well, first off, a lot of the performances are really good. Timothée Chalamet, this may be one of his best performances. I didn't really care for him as an actor until I saw him in this. He's really good in this movie. Also, Rebecca Ferguson, she's really good. One of her best performances. Jason Momoa, I thought he was going to be like one of the people who stuck out like a sore thumb because obviously he's Aquaman. No, he's actually really good, and I really like his relationship with Timothée Chalamet in this movie. A bunch of other people are really good. Josh Brolin's really good as a mentor. Stellan Skarsgård as a villain. He was really creepy. You couldn't really recognize him. And he was really good. He was really really creepy. A bunch of other people are really good, like Oscar Isaac. He's good, not as good as a bunch of the other people. Charlotte Rampling, you kind of saw her in the trailer. She's the one who's like, put your hand in this box. She was also really good for her brief role. Almost everyone in this movie is good, and I'll talk about that. Visually, wow, this movie is really impressive visually. And it's not like it's really in your face, but it's really subtle for the most part visually. And it still really works. It's still very well done. And technically, this movie is also really impressive too. Like, the production design's great. The cinematography is really good. The costume design is really good. The makeup on Stellan Skarsgård, I'm like, I know it's him, but it's like, I just can't see him. It's just so good. Pretty much every little detail about this is really good. And also the score by Hans Zimmer is epic. It's amazing. Like, pretty much every detail about this movie is really good. Also, I read the book before I saw this movie, and, the book is not really an easy read, admittedly. And I'm glad that this movie, at least, it makes it digestible for a lot of people. For, like, most audiences who haven't read the book, but it doesn't, like, dumb down the material, and I think, like, you could easily just dumb this down, like, what they did with the David Lynch version, but I'm glad that they didn't. It still feels like Dune. It still feels like it's this otherworldly thing, and it just feels like, let's bring in all these, let's make it accessible to everyone, not just Dune fans. I mean, I'm not a big Dune fan. I just read the book this year, so I'm just glad for that. Also, I've been complaining a lot about movies feeling too long, like The Last Duel and No Time to Die. This movie's about the same length as those movies, and I never felt the length. It's always moving. There's always something happening, and even though there's a lot of, like, talking, there's always something happening. So I never really felt that it was over 2.5 hours, so that's really good. Now let's get into the things I didn't care for. There are a few things. One, Zendaya. What the hell? She's not really in this movie much. I can't really spoil anything, but hopefully they do make a part 2 and she's in it a lot more. Also, even though I mentioned almost everyone in this movie's really good, unfortunately, the one person who isn't is Dave Bautista. You know what I just said about Jason Momoa and thinking he was going to stick out like a sore thumb? Dave Bautista is a sore thumb. It's like, I just see Dave Bautista. Everyone else, I see them as their actor, but I at least see them as their character, not as the actor. Him, I just saw as an actor. Like, I just saw him as... his character is just... His character doesn't really get to do much. And a lot of these characters don't really get to do much, but... Oh, man, I just felt bad. Because, like, I think Dave Bautista's cool, and like, his performance is just the weakest of everyone in this movie. Also, I didn't really care for the aspect ratio, even though, like, technically I think this movie's impressive almost all across the board. The aspect ratio changes frequently throughout this movie. And I didn't understand why at first. And it's like, is it because, like, you know, some scenes are inside and some scenes are outside? Is that why? I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. And also, the ending. This is part 1 of... basically the adaptation of the first book. And it doesn't really end... It ends in an anticlimactic way that I just didn't really expect. Like, I kind of saw this happening, and it's like, wait, no. You're not ending it here, are you? You're ending it here. Okay. I don't know why. Hopefully make a part 2. Let's just hope they do. And hopefully they give better performances to Zendaya and Dave Bautista. So, Dune is a very well-done movie. Technically great across the board. The performances, for the most part, are really good. The score is great. It's very accessible to pretty much anyone, not just fans of the source material, but people who don't know anything about it. It's always moving. It's always interesting. There are a lot of fascinating ideas in this. And I'm going to see it again on Monday. This time I'm going to see it in 3D, because I heard the 3D in that is also really good, so... I'm going to see it again. Maybe I'll catch on to something that I didn't notice before, and I'll talk about it in my spoiler review. So, and even though, like, there are a couple things I just didn't care for, like a couple of performances, the aspect ratio, and the ending, I'm still going to recommend this. I'm seeing it again, actually, so why not? So, right now, I'm going to give Dune... I'm going to go really high. I'll give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. See it. God, I'm such a nerd. I'm not even a big Dune fan. I just read the book this year. It's definitely worth seeing in the theater. I just can't imagine watching this on HBO Max. I just can't. So, what did you think of Dune? Are you a fan of the source material? Also, who's your favorite Dune character? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.